Hello and welcome to a thunderstorm edition of the Daily Fantasy 5 podcast. Here in sunny Florida, it is a thunderstorm at 9 in the morning, so we are coming to you with a little background noise. Hopefully you enjoy that ambiance. But as always, we are bringing you the 5 things you need to know every day in the world of fantasy sports. My name is Scott Grierson, and today we are talking a couple baseball stories, and then we are going to preview the New York Giants in the NFL Countdown Extravaganza. We are 22 days away from the NFL kickoff on September 5th. I am super pumped. Also, I had to go to the dentist today and have a tooth removed, so I'm not super excited about that. Not sure how great the show is going to be tomorrow. Hopefully, I can still talk. If I'm not here tomorrow, don't worry. I will be back on, what would that be, Friday. But hopefully, we'll have a show for you tomorrow by at least the afternoon at some point. But before we get to our stories of the day and the Giants preview, let's talk about mathradio.com, where you can pick up an online math course for as little as $9.99 to help your kids do better in math class. They should get better grades, score higher on exams, and even get into college with one of the SAT math prep courses. You can find math classes from third grade all the way through high school to help your kids be more confident in the math setting. All right, go to mathradio.com, 30-day money-back guarantee on any course, $9.99. All right, so let's talk baseball real quick. The Mets all-star second baseman, second-year player, 27-year-old Jeff McNeil, has a hamstring injury. We are not sure of the severity of this injury yet. He is going to undergo an MRI today. On the season, he's batting .332 with 15 home runs, and I believe 4 stolen bases as well. So they aren't just empty stats. McNeil certainly will be a loss to any fantasy owner and the Mets if he has to be down for any great length of time. All right, going to the American League, Astros starting pitcher Gerrit Cole was pulled from a doubleheader yesterday where he was supposed to start, and then he was scratched. Apparently, it was some hamstring stiffness. We don't know what's going on there either. It's unclear if he's going to miss any more time or just this game. Maybe he even starts, this week. Not sure what's going to go on with Gerrit Cole. Hopefully we'll have more news on that for you tomorrow, but the guy has been sick nasty. In 156 innings pitched, he has 226 strikeouts. Wow, those are amazing numbers. He has a 2.87 ERA and a 0.98 whip. So, yeah, maybe the best pitcher in baseball for fantasy. I don't know. I'd have to look at it. But the guy is crushing it. So if he's out any length of time, that is going to hurt fantasy owners for sure. Okay, with that being said, there was some news out of the NFL. I didn't really even take any notes on it. We talked about it yesterday. Andrew Luck, instead of the calf, they're calling it now a high ankle sprain. They said something was wrong with a small little bone in his ankle. I'm not really sure what's going on in that situation. I'm still nervous about it. If there's actually some substantial news, we'll talk about it again in the future, but we might have to reevaluate our quarterback rankings this weekend. Also in the NFL, the Antonio Brown saga continues. He's back at practice, and he says he hopes his feet are like reborn again. I don't know. It's a bunch of nonsense. I have not watched Hard Knocks yet. Plan on watching it this afternoon, and then hopefully I can report any notes that we see from the show in tomorrow's show. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and move on to our New York Giants preview as we are doing the continuation of the NFL Countdown Extravaganza. We have 22 days ago until the Bears and Packers kick off the NFL season on September 5th. And just so you know, that is a Thursday. All right, New York Giants, NFC East. Let's talk about it. So, question number 1, did the Giants underperform last season or did they just stink? Well, I think it's a fun question. The Giants' Pythagorean expectation was for them to win nearly 2 games more than they actually won. They only won 5 games. They were expected to win like 6.8 games, according to the expectation charts. However, this might be offset by their injuries. They had the 8th most injuries last season. So did they underperform or did they just stink? I would say they just stunk. I did not expect them to win 7 games. So I think, realistic expectations would be 6 games, maybe even 5 games. But I think that this team is just kind of awful, right? So I don't really think that a 5-win performance was anything out of the ordinary. In fact, in 2017, they only won 3 games. So it's actually an improvement for the Giants, which leads me to question number 2. This is a bad team. Did they get worse this offseason? I would say the answer is absolutely yes. So the offensive line ranked 21st according to PFF last season. The Giants didn't draft any linemen until the 7th round. Now, they did trade for right guard Kevin Zeitler from the Browns. The biggest question is Mike Remmers at right tackle. He seems to stink. Perhaps the group is young and improving. I don't buy it. Could they be league average this year? Perhaps. I would guess them to continue in the bottom 10 rather than being a top 15 offensive line, which should not help Saquon Barkley. It should not help Eli Manning or any other quarterback they throw out there this season. Continuing on this trend of the team getting worse, the Giants have obviously lost Odell Beckham and Olivier Verner in trades this offseason, while Landon Collins, they didn't want to give him this franchise tag, so he's gone as well. So can this talent be replaced? Well, when I wrote this, Golden Tate wasn't even suspended, and now he is. So this just gets worse and worse. Marcus Golden, did he also have an injury? I guess he had, 12 and a half sacks 2 years ago, coming off the ACL. I don't know if he's going to be ready to go for this season or not. But, yeah, I would say what they lost certainly outweighs what they brought in. One good note is the Giants added 7 players on the defensive end in this draft. So perhaps they can make an impact right away. I kind of doubt it. Our final question is, what in the world is going on at quarterback? So it's got to be one of the worst in football. Eli Manning is toast. He's done. He's not being drafted at all in fantasy leagues. I don't even know if he's being drafted in 2 quarterback leagues. Yeah, he's toast. And Daniel Jones is a player that no one had in the first round. Certainly not in the top 6. He went 6th overall, right? Yeah, I'm not crazy. He did go 6th. Yikes, this is just awful. How bad is that going to hurt Saquon Barkley? Sure, both those guys can hand the ball off to Saquon, but if there's no threat of the pass, our team's just going to line up, 8, 9 deep in the box and just do single coverage on every wide receiver. Seems to make sense to me. I mean, I would be significantly worried if I was a Saquon Barkley owner because of this offense. I think he might be the best running back in football, but the offensive line is not good. The offense is not good, and the quarterback is terrible. Not good success for fantasy purposes, and certainly not good success for the team. So speaking of fantasy, let's get to point number 4. We're talking fantasy. So obviously I do not like the quarterbacks. Eli Manning, Daniel Jones, both teams drafted outside the top 20. No, thank you. I'm going to pass. Wide receiver, Golden Tate, he's injured or suspended for the first 4 games. They had another wide receiver get injured for the year. Sterling Shepard has a broken finger, but he's going to be questionable for week 1. Sterling Shepard is the only wide receiver I kind of like on this team. Being drafted right now at wide receiver 31, I think that's great value. He is going to be the overall number 1, so he should get the lion's share of the targets. I like that from a value standpoint at wide receiver 31. I think he certainly has wide receiver 3 or flex potential, maybe even a wide receiver 2 in most fantasy lineups. Obviously, Saquon Barkley is a great fantasy player. He's being drafted in the top 4 in almost every league of fantasy. Other than the offense stinking, he should still put up his numbers as they don't have a lot of other options, and there is really no other backup. If you put in a league average player behind this offensive line in this offense, you don't want to own them anyway. So it's either Saquon Barkley or bust. You don't need to worry about handcuffing him because no matter who it is, who comes in, he's not going to be any good anyway. Tight end position, Evan Ingram. He is a guy who's kind of at the top end of that second group of tight ends we talked about last year, behind your Zach Ertz, Kittles, and your who's the other guy I'm forgetting? Kelsey. So he comes in at tight end number 4 behind that group. He's being drafted around pick 50. So if you're in a 12-team league, that's the top of the 5th round, I never get Evan Ingram. He never drops. Somebody always likes him when they go in and pick him either in the 5th or 6th round. If I can get him in late 6th, early 7th round, I'd be happy to draft him. He just never falls that far. I do think he probably is a very safe top 5 tight end because, he might be the best receiver on that team. So I don't really have much doubts about Evan Ingram other than that he is being a little bit overdrafted and he's in a terrible offense. That's about it from a fantasy standpoint. Let's go to the Vegas over-unders. Vegas has this team winning 6 games. So they only won 5 games last year. Like I said, I think this team is worse this year. I think they only rack up 4 wins. I think Jones is going to be the starter sooner than later, and I think he is awful. So I don't think there's any hope for this team this year. The Giants should have a high pick next year. So do they end up drafting another quarterback? Do they trade that pick? What do they do next year? That's a conversation for about a year from now, maybe 8-9 months. But this team's going to stink. I have them only at 4 wins this season. So, yeah, I'm betting the under on the Giants. No questions about that one. Okay, that is it for today. Tomorrow, we'll either be talking about the Eagles, Redskins, or Cowboys. If I don't want to talk much, it'll probably be the Redskins because, that team's awful and not very exciting. So I'll probably be doing some Redskins talk tomorrow. We'll also talk about the Hard Knocks show, bring you any news in baseball or football we have. If you would, please, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and tell a friend about our show. If you're listening to the podcast, we love a 5-star rating and a review. That would be awesome. And check out our sponsor, www.mathradio.com. We will see you back tomorrow, I hope, for another edition of the Daily Fantasy 5. Bye for now.